We're going to start with a roll call. Tom Keegan,
Here.
John Kides,
President.
Manny Langella,
Here.
Dean Roberts,
Present.
George Theodorides.
Here.
Perfect. George Cyrianides? Okay. All right. And I am here. So I need approval of the September 9th minutes.
Move it.
You moved it, Tom, and Don?
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we have anybody for public participation? Who's doing this tonight? Oh, is that Larry?
It's me, Anthony. We have 2 people in the attendees. I could go ahead and give them the floor.
Yes, thank you.
East Norwalk Neighborhood Association, you have the mic.
Hello?
Hi, everybody. It's Diane Cece with ENNA. Actually, I didn't have my hand raised, so I'm
You
just
didn't?
I'm just observing.
Oh, okay.
You may want to ask people
Hi,
to
Diane.
raise their hands so you don't identify people who are observing. I'm not sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Is
And
there
we
anybody
also-
else?
We also have a resident. I can go ahead and allow to speak.
Have they raised their hand?
Nope.
No? We'll just try. It's only one other person. Maybe they don't know. Hello? Okay. So maybe that's it.
And that is it.
Darlene, I have one email that I received. It's Delene that I want to read into the record.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. We are very disappointed that once again, our event has been moved to an executive session for review and discussion, which excludes the Seaport and the general public. From the onset, the Seaport Association has been detailed with our plans and intentions. We have responded to each and every inquiry and request for information and are anxious and prepared to continue this conversation if given the opportunity. Jerry, Tony, and I are looking forward to our meeting on Friday, October 16th to discuss the event and expect we will have more complete explanation from the City of Norwalk as to why the proposed event has not been approved as of this date. Thank you, Mike Riley.
All right, thank you, Jolene. All right, so we're going to move on to new business. So I'm going to read that. Authorize the purchasing director to issue a purchase order to Tiger Corporation for the purchase of 1 tractor with side mount rotary mower for a sum not to exceed $119,932. Account numbers noted. Can someone move the item? Tom's moving the item. Thank you, Tom. So you want to explain that, Nick?
Sure. So this is the purchase of a slope tractor that will be used to clear brush and also cut the steep embankments at Flax Hill and Oyster Shell Park. This was and is approved in the capital fleet plan. It was approved 2 years ago. At that time, the quotes came back too high for what we had funded. We were finally able to put it back out and get a quote that came in within budget. So that's why we are going to go ahead and make the purchase for this during this fiscal year.
Hey, Nick, the one we have now, is it broken?
Yep.
We throwing it out? Or?
I'm not sure of the age of it, but this particular machine is able to cut slopes at Oyster Shell. The current vehicle we have now is shared, is actually DPW's, and we only get it probably once a month when they're not cutting their right-of-ways and cul-de-sacs. So this is actually our own machine that we're using to be able to cut and maintain Oyster Shell as well as the underbrushes throughout the other parks that we have.
Great.
And what's the life expectancy on these vehicles, on these
They don't go in terms of years. They go in terms of numbers of hours of use. I don't have that number in front of me, but generally we can see at least 8 to 10 years of use out of it. That's typically what we get for our other mowers and tractors that we have in the garage.
All right. Any other questions for Nick? The motion, no? Motion to, well, make a motion to. Anybody? Kadeem?
Motion go.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Yes.
John, I'm going to call you all by one. Tom? John?
Yes, ma'am.
George? Theodorides?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
Kadeem?
Yes.
Thank you. Right, thank you. All right, so we need to move on to item 2, which will move into executive session for that. Does everyone have that link? Have that information? So now we close out and go back into that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know what that,
Your name?
moving on to, everyone's here? For 2, executive session. Question now, do I have to read this one into the record? Yes? Yeah,
Did you hear me? Yes.
okay. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with Norwalk Seaport Association for the use of Calf Pasture Shady Beach for a Seaport Holiday Light Show to be held Thursday, November 26, 2020 through Thursday, December 31, 2020 from 5 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. daily. Setup date to be determined, vehicular traffic only. We have, guys,
Darlene, your screen, Delene, your screen is up, by the way.
whose screen?
Delene.
Your screen. Is that yours with the checking emails?
I think that's Delene's.
In my screen, I'm sorry, it keeps going out. Can you guys can see me though, right?
You
Yep.
could also see your emails on your screen.
That's Delene. She's getting something for the next item.
Oh, that's
Delene, Anthony, can you cut her screen off for a second?
Sure, hold on.
What it is, okay.
I didn't know who it was. I just want to make sure somebody didn't inadvertently
Right,
put up an email that they didn't want the public to see.
Should be good to go now.
are we okay?
Yep.
So I want to make a motion to table this item to a future date to be determined in my position as chairperson to discuss this item in further detail, particularly with the members of the Seaport Association. And it will be disclosed for the public to have input, and we will follow the same process as we do with any other agenda item. So I make that motion. Want to move that item? Kadeem? All in favor? Say aye. I will do a roll call vote, please, on that. Tom Keegan?
Yes.
John Kides?
Yes.
Manny Langella?
Yes.
Kadeem Roberts?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And myself. Motion passed. We'd just like to say also that We will be working with the Seaport Association to work out the details for this event. And we recognize the Seaport Association's commitment to the city and their history with the city. And we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that we are able to provide events that for the city of Norwalk that work for everybody. And so we will be moving forward, having discussions to that, with that in mind. And so I think we just need to leave it there, and we will see what happens as we move forward. So next on the item is discussions with the Broad River Turf Field project update.
Yes, I wanted to bring this to your attention. Delene, can you now share the overview of the site as it currently stands? I have 2 slides I want to show, just the current conditions as well as the rendering of what the proposed baseball complex would look like. And you'll see the issue here. Delene, if you can zoom that in, correct. Keep going, in. So this is a site as it's currently laid out. As you can see, it's right now 2 fields, and then there's a tennis court to the side. There's no concession, no bathroom at the site. So you can see it's very limited. We did have funding to create a baseball complex at that site. Delene, if you can go on to the next location, and if you can, committee members, just please pay attention to where the tennis court is. You can see right now that it's pretty small space. Right now there's 2 fields and we're trying to create a third. So you'll see with this rendering, hold on. And where we are in the process, we're still in the design phase. The design phase is expected to take a couple more weeks. We're anticipating a final completion in November. And then once it has the final design, it'll go through permitting, then it will come back before the committees for, it'll go out to bid and then come back to the committees for approval for the construction of the project. But I wanted you all to take a look at the layout, the proposed layout for the new site, which does have 3 fields. But what you'll see is it comes at the cost of losing the tennis court. And that's the item that I wanted you to be aware of. We were able to fit in everything else that was at the site, 3 fields, a new playground, a new turf area, batting cages, a warm-up area, pitching area, new scoreboards. All of that will be incorporated into the project. But the only downside to it is we needed the extra space of where the tennis courts were located to be able to fit the 3 fields in. The tennis courts are lightly used. They were in bad condition. They were scheduled to be renovated anyway, but they are used by the community. I've been there about 3 times. I've seen 2 people out there in the 3 times that I've been there. I just want to provide a little bit of context. The closest tennis courts to Broad River right now will be at Silver Mine, which is at 1.6 miles away, and then at Matthews Park, which is 2 miles away. So even though we may lose the tennis court at the site, there's still available courts within decent proximity, within less of 2 miles away. So, Delene, I'm not sure if you're able to get to the actual rendering.
There still will be a tennis court there, though, correct?
No, there will not be. There's no room to be able to accommodate both the tennis court and the 3rd field. Okay. That's what I'm waiting to show you the rendering. You'll see that it's packed in there tightly. But again, the project was to develop a baseball complex. We want to be able to host tournaments, games, attract other events. These fields will be turf. They will be multi-purpose. They will have variable base lengths to be able to accommodate from ages 8 all the way up to ages 14. These fences will be at 200 feet on the bottom 2 fields, and then 280 on the larger field. So this is a true baseball complex. It's able to accommodate multiple games, multiple ages, and you're able to do the fields for different sports. The fences will be removable, so we'll be able to run soccer or any other sport in the outfields of both fields. So the benefits of having the baseball complex in the 3 fields versus trying to maintain the tennis courts that are used seldomly, I think the benefit for the 3 fields outweighs the tennis courts, and there are alternative sites of where tennis courts are located within 2 miles of where the Broad River fields are.
Nick,
So that's what I wanted to bring to your attention.
Darlene, you mind?
Go ahead.
Real quick. Nick, are you aware of any groups or organizations that use the tennis courts now?
No, they're only used by the individuals in the public. There is no formal groups or large groups that utilize the site. And again, the conditions of the court were not in the best shape. They should have been, or they were scheduled to be rescheduled, but there's just no way to be able to accommodate all 3 amenities at the location.
Okay, so there's not going to be no outcry from the public that, some, youth tennis programs taking place there and we're going to lose that? No?
No, there's no tennis programs, no large groups, no organizations utilize that space. But again, there are individuals that do use it from time to time. But I think with the availability of having courts within 2 miles of this current location, we should be able to accommodate them at other locations easily.
Like, I don't have the rendering. Do you want to send that, or?
It was in the package. I sent it this morning. I'm on my phone, Deline, if you give me 1 second.
Let me see if I can hold on it.
All right, Deline, I just resent it again. We also did.
Nick, I have a question. So if we get rid of this tennis court, how many courts do we have left?
There's 1 at Silvermine, and then over at Matthews, there's 3 courts there. So it'll be able to handle the capacity, no problems. I did also. Yes.
I have a question, Madam
Yes.
Chair. Nick, do you factor in Oak Hills as well? I mean, that's pretty close.
Correct. I did not factor that in, even though it is a public facility. I believe Oak Hills does charge a fee in season to use the site. Out of season, I don't think there is a fee, but yes, Oak Hills is another location, and that's probably the same distance, probably less than 2 miles away, 1.5 miles away from Broad River. We did also show this preliminary layout to Broad River Little League, who is the primary user of the site. They were happy with it. They did ask for 3 things. And again, I'll just mention it to you as just as an FYI. They wanted the ability to have the various base lengths for different age groups. They wanted an area to locate their storage container. There's a large storage container where they keep their pitching nets and pitching machines and things like that. So we're going to incorporate that into the design. And then the last thing they asked for was a press box location or electrical to be able to do announcements or lineups and things like that. So those elements will be added or incorporated into the overall design. And then once we have a final design, we are going to run it back by them so they have, a final view of it. And then we'll move forward. It'll go through permitting and then the approvals subsequently after that.
Nick,
Deline,
I just see, Deline, your email. Is that?
Yeah, I was going to ask Deline, are you able to open the file?
You can't see it?
I can just see the email.
Oh, really? Because I'm looking at the rendering. So I don't know.
You might not be.
On the screen is just the email. I'm not sure if you have a double screen. It's picking up the email, not the actual screen.
All right, hold on a minute.
Yep, there you go.
You see it now?
No, I can see you clicking on it, but I don't see it opening up.
Do you have 2 screens, Deline?
No.
Might have selected a different option when selecting sharing your screen, because you can share your desktop and then you can share what you're
It
displaying.
says you are sharing your screen at the top.
Click on share screen again and see if the rendering shows as an option.
There we
See it
go.
now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the bottom part is there we go. Yep.
Okay, cool.
So you can see how tight the layout is in that site. We were restricted as far as how we can lay them out. Ideally, a clover leaf layout would be best to be able to share the bleachers and the restrooms and things like that. But just the way that the site is configured with the boundaries of the fire station and then the nursing home to the left, we were trying to squeeze everything in there, and there were no way to be able to get 3 fields in there without removing the tennis court. We even had to move where the playground is to the entrance. But I think this is a good design because now we actually have a plaza entrance from the parking lot. So you'll be able to come into that parking lot. You'll have a concession building with restrooms on one side, the playground on the other side, and then you'll have those 2 ball fields there. So if you're a parent and you have a child playing in a game, but you also have a sibling, you'll be able to let them go play in a playground and still be able to watch the game. So I think this is a pretty good layout. The only negative was the loss of the tennis courts.
Question, Nick. What is that in the middle, Nick? You said it again?
The pathway in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a pathway where you'll have bleachers on both sides, and then you'll have a loop around the big field. So if you're, again, a parent that's bringing a child to practice, while they're on the field, you can actually do laps around both fields. So it provides ADA access, it provides a walking path around the entire site. So not only you can have it for baseball use, but the community can come out and use it, get their walking in, get their laps in, those types of things.
Okay.
Cool. Looks really nice.
Hey, Nick, real quick.
One other question. I have a question. That's okay, Darlene.
I was trying to ask a question. Hold on one moment. I'm sorry. Is it impacting parking at all for the Broad River homes?
No. So the parking lot to the left-hand side is actually split. Where you see that line down the middle,
Okay.
everything to the left of that is the nursing home. Everything to the right of that is park property. We are actually going to have to reduce the size of the islands to be able to capture additional parking spaces because, of course, once you build this, you're going to get much more usage. You're going to have much more cars there. So we are probably going to recapture about 12 additional spaces at the entrance of the current parking lot. And then the parking lot near the fire station is underutilized on the right-hand side. We're going to have an entrance off of that parking lot as well. So we are going to capture additional parking spaces here to be able to capture the increased capacity at the site.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom. I had some more questions, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Nick, you have any intent to put up nets or anything to protect foul balls?
Yes. We don't anticipate putting up a huge net on the larger field at the top. We spoke to the Little League. There's 12 and 14-year-olds that will play on that larger field. I asked the coaches about how far do they hit the ball. They say generally about 230, 240. That fence on the large fields at 280. But we are still going to run a net probably 20 feet high so that way it doesn't go into the street or affect the neighbors across the street. And then, of course, all of the fields will have the traditional backstop fencing. So if there's a pop-up, it won't go backwards. It'll just be in the net or the field of play. But yes, they will have netting down the left field side and then probably along where the street is so it doesn't go into the cars or the neighbors' yards.
That was a good question because that walkway that I asked you about,
Uh-huh.
I just be sure nothing. People that sitting there watching both fields, or whatever the case maybe, didn't get any type of foul ball or anything hit that way.
Yeah, typically we run netting along from the home plate down to the first base line because that's where the bleachers are. Bleachers are usually on the first or third base line behind the dugouts. So traditionally we run netting along that far. If there's an area or neighbors or houses beyond that, we typically extend it down. In this case, we're only probably going to look to the large field where the bigger kids would play, where they're hitting the long way and can hit into the street, on a whim. But we don't anticipate that because they typically hit less than 250.
I got a question. Who's going to be using this? Cal Ripken or Norwalk Little League?
Broad River Little League are the primary users. This is their home site, so they will have first right to the field. Again, their season generally runs from about late March through August, and then once that season is over, we can remove the fences, and then we can also use it for additional sports and activities. So if we wanted to run, let's say, a soccer league in the outfield in the off season, we can do that as well. But Broad River Little League will be the primary user first at the site.
Wow, I never even heard of Broad River Little League.
Right.
I'm sorry. Cal Ripken, sorry.
Oh, Cal Ripken. One more quick, Manny, real quick. The parking, like I'm just looking at that parking lot. I'm very familiar with that field. Like I'm just like thinking about like Norwalk High School and Nathan Hale. And I mean the cars are the parking lot is just filled to the rim. I mean, you really think that parking lot can accommodate the cars for these three fields?
We talked about that too in the design. You see where the parking lot on the right side is, where the fire department is.
Yes.
There's additional green space there. We're going to add in as an add alternate to be able to build that out for additional parking. As part of the design, we understand the users. We can get a pretty good idea of how many vehicles would be there for the Little League games, but we do want to try to recapture as much parking as possible because this is going to be a site that draws tournaments, hosts tournaments. It can host a state tournament. So that is an issue we are aware of, and we're trying to maximize all the spaces possible for parking. But as you can see, we're tapped out. Everything else there is being maximized. We're removing and reducing the tree islands just to get additional parking spaces there. So it is something we're aware of, we're conscious of, and we're trying to maximize as much of the space as possible.
You said Cal Ripken. My son played Cal Ripken like his entire childhood. Is there a field that they will no longer be using when this gets up and running? So I know right now they've got us all. They had us all over the place.
Yeah, I think that part of the issue we're having is there's three different baseball organizations that run Little League baseball, whether it's Cal Ripken, Babe Ruth, or there's another group. So I don't anticipate that we will eliminate having to use one of the alternative sites. I think that'll just open up a spot for someone else or another group to be actually to grow bigger the organization. So I don't think we're going to eliminate the use of any other sites, but this will be a venue that's going to be able to draw and host tournaments and those type of things.
Like right now, they always have the big field for, I forget the categories, it's like, Pony League. Like for the littler kids and the majors or whatever I forgot what we called them. But,
yep.
Have you talked to the guys or the people at Cal Ripken? The need for two small fields, because there's only a small group. I think it's like, literally 3 years or 2 years that they use the small fields before they go to the big fields.
Yeah, I spoke to the league president, Michael Izanaski, I believe is his last name. He has a last name that starts with I. I did talk to him about the fields as far as the dimensions and the fence lines. He says typically they would play the smaller fields. They would probably play about 220. These fields on the bottom are about 200, but the larger field is bigger. So what they'll probably do is play the championship games, playoff games in the larger field, but the smaller fields will be able to host larger tournaments or larger groups and teams. So, I think this is a good layout. And then again, the way the fields are laid out, both of those fields on the bottom are exactly 200 yards away. So if you decided to make one bigger, it would subsequently affect the other one. So this layout was the best we can do that makes them both the same, maximizing as much space that we had.
The reason I bring it up is we have such a small age group that uses the small field. My son was in and out of it in 2 years. and it sounds like you put thought into it. Hey, you know, I mean, like as far as what would be a more used field, 2 large fields or 1 large and 2 small. I just, you know,
From my experience, generally the smaller groups are the larger groups because you tend to have more kids that are getting into the sport for the first time. There's generally more retention at that younger age. As they get older and it becomes more competitive and more specialized, you tend to have less kids. And I understand that may be different for this particular organization, but I think generally you have more participants at the younger age until they start developing, figuring out what sport is good for them. They lose interest, they tend to shift to other sports, but you see the bigger numbers in the younger age groups.
Thanks.
Where are the facilities on here? The bathrooms, I don't see it.
If you look where that little square is off of the parking lot where you come in, that's actually the restroom / concession building. At the top portion, that little triangle, that little rectangle at the top. So now, before it wasn't really a main entrance or a plaza as you come into the site. Now we have an actual plaza off of the parking lot. You'll walk in, the restrooms will be right there. The playground will be right to the right of that. So that's now sort of the main point entering the site, and is really the hubs. You have both fields coming off of that entrance. You have the restrooms there. You have the playground there. That area will be very busy.
And so the playground is already there, correct? I mean, something is there, right? That
Yes,
looks like a playground.
so right now there's 2 baseball fields, 1 playground, and 2 tennis courts. So this layout will now have a playground, 3 fields, and a tennis court will be eliminated.
And with those facilities, will the restrooms be open even when there are no games? I mean, is it that sort of thing too? Say somebody's going to the playground. How are you
Yes.
managing that? Like we do everything else?
I'm not really sure about that yet because there's a double-edged sword to that, right? So if we open the restrooms and leave them unstaffed or unmanned, there can be things that happen in the restrooms. You know, it could be damage, it could be vandalism, it could be any type of thing. Or we can just keep them open when there's activity at the site. So that way the primary user would have access to it. I really not sure which way we're gonna go. It's really gonna depend on the usage at the site.
And getting back to the parking spaces, how many parking spaces are there in total?
I think there will be 60 that's shown in this drawing, not counting the spaces where the fire station is or what we could possibly add as part of the design. But for right now, we have 60 that's in the top left-hand portion. And then there's probably another 15 or 20 in the fire lot. And then we'll ask the consultant to try to take that green space on the right-hand side where we can expand the lot on the fire department side to see if we can get another 20 in there. So we can probably get up to about 100 spaces if we really build out the entire thing.
And does anyone know, is there on-street parking on that side street?
There's on-street parking to the road on the right-hand side. Yes, where the fire station is on the right-hand side. Yes, there is. On the north side, no, there is no. The street is one lane or 2 lanes each way, and it's not wide enough to do on-street on the top portion. But on the right-hand side, yes.
Thanks. Any more questions?
Yeah, Nick, is there going to be some? Oh, Manny, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead, John.
All right, I'll be quick. So, is there going to be any signage for people not to park in the
Your home.
assisted
Yeah.
living?
Right.
Yeah, I believe there's signage there now, but we'll make it more prominent because we understand that it's going to draw a lot more people. So we'll definitely look to do that.
Manny, you had a question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. And I mean, first off, this looks amazing and it's great. And I understand the reason why we did this was likely due to demand. I think you mentioned, Nick, we have 3 different agencies,
Yep.
baseball organizations that are using this. So, I mean, I think this is much needed and it's awesome. I think my question for you is probably more long-term. Is there thought around perhaps, first off, I think this caters to the demographic of those 3 organizations, but where I think we possibly fall short here in Norwalk is catering towards softball and men's senior leagues. For instance, my sister plays at a softball league and she drives an hour and a half to go to Stamford so that they can play softball tournaments and et cetera. And so I think my question is has there been thought or is there a roadmap for Norwalk to cater to that demographic of the 30 plus, where I think equally we don't have people driving to the major baseball tournament hubs such as Stamford or New Haven and instead coming to Norwalk to use our fields, or allowing us to actually to house that or to host those, I guess.
So traditionally, we've accommodated our adult softball leagues down at the beach. And again, we've done that for a couple of reasons. One, because that's the only site where we have 3 fields to be able to accommodate multiple games at the same time. Plus the fences are further back. The fields are bigger to be able to accommodate adults. As part of the capital plan last year, we did put in a request to renovate some of those fields. They have not been touched in years.
Right.
That was approved, and we are scheduled to do that work in spring. We actually are putting out the RFP this week, actually, to do that work. So we will look at regrading those fields, adding additional turf back to the infields, eliminating all of the areas that drain and pond water. We redid the fencing last year. So we are aware of that issue. We are trying to improve the conditions, but because the size of the fields are there already, the multiple fields are there already, we think that's probably the better location. It's down at the beach. It's a really nice layout. So that's where we try to accommodate our adult users and where we've always placed those leagues. And we understand those fields need to be renovated, and we will be doing that in the springtime.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you, Nick. And so what's the plan for this, or where are we in this whole plan?
So the timeline, as I mentioned, we're currently in the design phase. We're expecting final design to be done at the end of November. Then the design will go out to bid. Once we have those bids, it will go back through permitting, and then it will go to council for approval, the committee, and then the common council for approval. So we anticipate all of that to be done probably around February, and then hopefully we'll be able to start construction in spring. We've already spoken to the leagues that use the space. If we need to accommodate and push back a little bit further so that way it doesn't interrupt their season, we are understanding of that, and they are also aware that we will be starting construction there sometime next year.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we can move on, if there are no more questions, to your next update. Nick?
Okay.
Is that you? You have Parks Department retirement and personnel update?
Yes, I just wanted to update the committee. So due to the recent city retirement package that was awarded to 93 employees, the Parks Department had 7 employees eligible. Well, not eligible. We had 7 employees that accepted the package. 5 of those are in the Parks garage. So we're losing, actually, I think we're losing our 3 heavy equipment operators as well as a couple laborers. And we'll be also losing Patty Patricus, who is my admin and bookkeeper, as well as Gerald Anastasia, who's our athletics coordinator. There were some concerns of whether or not those positions would be eliminated, and I was happy to report that no, we were able to keep all 7 of those positions, but there are a couple items. So Gerald Anastasia's position will be put on pause until we turn this whole COVID thing around, because we are not going to program in winter in the indoor spaces because of the recommendations from the health department. So there's no need to bring him back on board or bring that position back on board until we've turned the corner on COVID. So as a cost savings measure for the city, we're going to reduce that position, and we're going to hold off on hiring it until the spring or until whenever we turn the corner and are implementing additional sports and athletic programs. The other 5 members in the garage, those positions, we will have to work with DPW because the positions are eligible.
Hello.
He's gone.
Okay, sorry, I thought I was frozen for a second.
Me too. I saw
your
movement.
head moving. I was like, oh, okay.
I was like, okay.
Tom, you still there too?
Yeah, Tom's here. Kadeem, I think everybody's here but Nick.
Got it.
Got to the good part. Well, I'm glad at least those 7 positions will be filled.
Right.
Maybe his battery, his phone died.
I'm sorry, every device I have is dying on me.
So I figured, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a little bit of a delay in filling those positions in the garage because those positions first are eligible to 24 or 5 employees who will have to come over from DPW. Plus, they're also handling their filling of vacancies to the retirement package as well. So there may be a delay in service, and we are going to be short-staffed until those vacancies are filled. The good news is we're going into a slower period for us, but a busier time for DPW. So there may be some delays in filling those vacancies. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to provide you an update that we are losing 7 employees, and there may be a little bit of a time in transition in filling those vacancies. So I wanted you to be aware of it.
Great.
Just
Any questions? Go ahead, Manny.
Super quick question, sorry. So understanding that there's obviously a process for moving between interdepartmental, once these positions go live, just because I had someone reach out to me, what is the process if somebody wants to apply for one of these positions? Is it posted on the city website? Is it posted externally? Do we know, and equally from the council side, we could help out there and cascade this information out to the constituents.
So 6 out of the 7 positions are union positions, and they are going to be bid within the union, bid within the city first. So the 5 in the garage will go out to union, to 24 or 5 union. Their members are eligible to bid on it. If they don't all bid on it, or no one does bid on it, it will then go out to the public, then be posted on the city website, then open to the public to be able to apply for those positions. The same with Patty's position. That is a NMEA position, so it's going to be eligible to their members first. If no one bids on it, then it will go out publicly. And then Gerald position, because we're going to downgrade it and reclassify it, that one will go out to the public. But again, the timing of that is still to be determined because it's all going to be based on whether or not we start programming again, or when the programming starts again.
Okay, that's perfect. I mean, as long as I know what to relay back, so TBD, and then to look to the city website.
And what I'll do is, we actually have a meeting with the HR director tomorrow to try to expedite some of those bidding of positions internally, because we don't want to drag this process out long enough, because like I said, DPW will go into their busy season. So after tomorrow, I'll have a better idea of the timeline. And then probably in another week or 2, I'll have an idea of members coming over to parks that are bidding on those positions. And then if those positions, those vacancies aren't filled, then I can also let you know that it'll be going out to the public. And that way, if anyone's interested, we can just let them know to go on the website and apply through the city's webpage.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
John?
Welcome.
John?
Oh, if I said Tom. I mean, it's been protocol where these positions go to DPW workers. I mean, right? I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone come to parks that wasn't from DPW. Is this going to affect maybe not so much you, but DPW and losing all those employees. I mean, I think
Yes.
they lost a boatload of people already that took the plan, and on top of that, you're going to have all these people that are still, you know, in the union and employed going over to Park, so they're going to lose even that many more. Going into the heart of the snow season.
It definitely is, and that's why we're going to meet with the HR director, Chris Torrey and Anthony Carr, to work out the timing of it. I don't expect all 5 of those positions to come over immediately. I think we are going to phase it. I'm probably going to ask for 2 of those employees until Chris can fill his vacancies, and then he can hire, he can train, and then also move the rest over. So there's going to be a phasing and a sequencing of when we move those employees over. But yes, I'm also, I would like to see that change somewhere down the road to where, you know, maybe even part-time park staff that are seasonal employees or temporary employees have an opportunity to apply for those openings when they become available, and not just go through DPW. But that's a union issue we'll have to work through with HR and with the union heads on that item.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, just being around and knowing a lot of the players. I mean, there are some major concerns that a lot of people are going to be shorthanded because of all of this. But
and then we also met with the budget director, the CFO, to talk about extending a lot of our part-time staff to be able to cover those gaps. Traditionally, it will come off after the summer, but we've asked to extend them into probably November and December because of this transition as well. So they've told us they understand that. We've also asked for additional overtime monies to be rolled over from last fiscal year that we didn't use to be able to cover those gaps if we need to do additional work too. So there is a plan in place to handle the transition, but we understand that both DPW and Parks will be short until we can fill those vacancies.
Okay, thanks.
Nick, so you said the athletic coordinator position is going to change a bit. So you're downgrading it to what?
It'll probably be a program coordinator, which is what I requested during last year's budget. But because we had a person in the position already, rather than eliminate it, we funded it at the higher position. But typically that position, that responsibility would be a lower grade. Now that we have a recreation superintendent, that person can handle the management and the implementation of the athletic programs, but we do need someone that's a lower grade to be able to be on site, to serve as a customer service, to make sure that everything is getting done right. That's going to be a lower position. I think we had it at a grade 10 last year during the budget process. And I think a grade 10.
And it's now a what?
It is now a grade 15.
All right.
So we essentially went from a starting salary of somewhere in the neighborhood of 82 to 51 or 54. And that's a good entry level position and salary for anyone in the recreation field. That's about par.
51, 54.
Yeah, so now we're creating that succession in the department where you can come in as a program coordinator, you can work up to a program superintendent, to then a director. So now we're trying to create that succession to be able to grow people through our system.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. We're all set then. Thank you, Nick. A lot of work, a lot going on. Thank you for everything you're doing. It's been a difficult time. Who said that quickly? I was talking. Don't do that. You want to see it? All right. Who made that motion? Here you go, John. Let's talk some more. I got more questions.
It wasn't me. It was Kadeem.
Yes. Our motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
night.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thanks, Delene. Thanks, Anthony.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Anthony. Good night, everybody.